Welcome to the Trippy Commentaries Top Guitarist Discussion. I'm RJ here with Justin.
Yo.
And Cory.
What's up?
And we're here to, really talk about who we think is our top guitarist of all time. It was extremely difficult to compile these lists. We each made our own top 5, and we're going to delve into it, break it down, and really get into who we think are our top guitarists. So, let's go ahead and get right into it. Cory, let's start off with your number 5 guitarist. Who do you have?
For my number 5, and I think I can speak on behalf of all of us, that it's really hard to rank people. I mean, You have your favorites for all different reasons.
Extremely hard.
But for me, number 5 was John Fogerty from Creedence Clearwater Revival, as well as a solo career. I got to see him live after a Rays game a few years back.
Nice.
Actually with Justin.
Yeah. Nice. Our Tampa Bay Rays
that
here.
That was a great show. And yeah, the thing about John Fogerty is, his songwriting skills aside, he has that mass appeal to all audiences. Kids love him, old people love him, everybody loves him. Mm-hmm. And his music's definitely, to me, it represents almost like a piece of like Americana, kind of.
Yeah.
It really does.
The thing I like about CCR at that time in the late 60s, when other bands were going, more trippy, psychedelic with their music, they kind of, stayed the course with good old southern swamp rock boogie stuff.
Oh yeah.
So that was a highlight to me. That's what makes them stand out, and that, like you said, the longevity of that music 40, Absolutely. 50 years later. I hear it on the radio every hour.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well said. I have to say, to me, CCR is truly timeless. I think we'll be listening to them probably for the rest of our lives. So Cory's got John Fogerty at number 5. Justin, who's your number 5 guitarist?
My number 5 guy, an 80s rock legend Slash from Guns N' Roses, Velvet Revolver, and his newer solo albums, which are really good as well. Mm-hmm. He's got that classic rock and roll vibe. People throw around the word rock star a lot. He's a true rock star. I'm tired of hearing that word thrown around recklessly. I am not using it recklessly right now. He is a true rock star.
Nice. I fully agree. He's really an icon. I mean, whenever I think rock guitarist, I think Slash, top hat and all, cigarette hanging off his lip. That's him.
Exactly. And he was like the antithesis of Van Halen type guitar playing in the 80s.
Yes.
He came out in the late 80s, and everyone was doing the neoclassical shredding, tapping stuff.
Yep.
Slash was, blues to the extreme with, a really tasteful tone.
I agree.
And he, the classic Les Paul Marshall combo, like Jimmy Page, like Joe Perry, early Clapton.
Yep.
It was just the continuation of that legacy.
I agree.
Nice. All right, so we'll move on to my number 5. I'm going with The Edge from U2. Yep. A band I really grew up listening to with the Joshua Tree. Really great albums out there and great songs. And I gotta say, every single U2 song that I love, and there's a lot of them, just The Edge is always what stands out to me. It's just Definitely. He's truly an iconic guitarist, because he's got a really unique sound.
He does.
He's my number 5 guitarist.
He made the most of the delay pedal and used it rhythmically to kind of bounce the riff back and forth, and it just creates like that wall of sound. And when you top it off with some reverb and other crazy effects, he has a unique tone. And now that they've evolved as songwriters since the Joshua Tree and Octoon Baby into this newer stuff, the new century music they've been making. It's not bad. It just, it'll never match what they did in the 80s and early 90s, but it's sonically it sounds great, and I think his guitar tone sounds the best it ever has.
I think so too.
The Edge is an all-time great. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our number 4 guitarist. Cory, let's start off with who? Who do you have?
For number 4, as always, I like to break the rules. So I actually included 2 people, but I think it makes sense.
Really?
James Hetfield and Kirk Hammett of Metallica.
Oh, okay. I see what you did there.
Metallica is probably my favorite as far as rock and metal, hard rock bands go. I had the chance to see him live in 2003 on the Summer Sanitarium tour in Orlando. The thing about Hetfield, not only is, I mean, he a great rhythm guitar player, but he sings while he does it. And
yeah,
as a musician who's tried it, I can't do it. It's really hard.
He's a great lyricist as well.
He is. Excellent. Excellent. And, of course, Kirk, I mean, it's Kirk Hammett. Kirk shreds. So, yeah.
He's off the chain.
Yeah, me and Justin saw them not too long ago, and that's definitely one of the best concerts I've ever seen. Truly, truly powerful, and really, just talented is almost an understatement when it comes to those two guys.
Probably the biggest rock band still going today. Them and the Chili Peppers. As far as the metal genre goes, they're headlining festivals all over the world.
Yeah.
Yep. Carrying the torch for sure.
Yep.
All right, so I'll go ahead and I'll say my number 4.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Duane Allman. Now, this is really kind of a personal pick for me just because I love the Allman Brothers to death. I listen to them all the time. And, this is more of just from a pure guitarist standpoint. I really feel like he's got the talent. And, he may not have as many songs as some other people that we're talking about here that stand out to the general public, but he is my number 4 guitarist. Cory, what do you think about good old Duane Allman?
I think my favorite thing about Duane Allman is probably his tone. His tone is always so nice and crisp and clean.
Yeah, good call.
He's a great slide player as well.
One of the best.
One of the best, yeah, absolutely.
If you're going to learn how to play slide guitar, you're going to listen to those early Allman Brother records.
Absolutely.
And Layla.
Yep,
definitely listen to Eat a Peach, man. That's just an awesome album.
Yeah.
Justin, who do you have at number 4?
All right, number 4, it's Jeff Beck.
Ooh,
oh, yeah.
Who is just the master of guitar. I've seen him play live, and I've listened to a majority of his records. My 2 favorite are from the mid-'70s, which were produced by George Martin.
Yes.
Blow by Blow and Wired.
Yes.
It's just like kind of fusion, prog, funk, jazz rock.
Yep.
And that kind of set the tone for that genre into the 80s. He grew up like down the street or like 2 miles from Clapton and Jimmy Page. They all grew up in the same neighborhood, kind of in London.
What?
And so I have to say, out of those 3, I love Jimmy Page. He's an amazing songwriter, an amazing producer. Guitar skills, he's probably the least talented of the 3.
He's a little sloppy at times.
Clapton's in the middle for me. He, he's a blues god, and he's kind of stuck to his guns with that. And he's evolved into a great singer as well.
Yeah.
But Jeff Beck is just, if you watch a Jeff Beck concert, he just, he tames the guitar like no other guy I've ever seen. Plays complete finger style with his thumb mostly. He can just make it squeal like no other.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff Beck is one with the guitar.
Yes.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to number 3. I'll start it off. I'm going to go with a guy that is pretty popular, and I think he's going to be number 1 on a lot of people's list out there, and that is Mr. Jimmy Page from, of course, Led Zeppelin. So many great songs, so many great albums, and, his riffs always stand out. That's to say the least. Jimmy Page, my number 3. Justin, what do you think of Jimmy Page?
He's a major influence on rock and roll since the 70s, since the Zeppelin albums. He, like I said, he's an amazing orchestrator of recorded music. He produced those Led Zeppelin albums. He was the one sitting there with the engineer and, using mic techniques to get the best room sound on Bonzo's kit, etc. He had the mindset of that on top of the business acumen.
Yes.
He's obviously, people hail him as one of the best guitarists. Technically, I don't think so. But he was one of the best riff writers of all time.
Oh, definitely.
He's written some of the most memorable riffs that you'll ever hear.
Oh, I agree.
That's for sure.
The thing is, with me about Page, kind of as you mentioned, technically he might not always be the best player. I feel that on record he's great, but sometimes after, I've watched a lot of their live stuff, he could be a little sloppy at times, but it was still great.
Yep.
The thing with Page, man, is, like you said, I mean, he took the best elements of like rock and folk and the blues and everything and took it and just crafted it and made Led Zeppelin into the powerhouse that they were.
Right.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I think, are going to point towards Kurt Cobain. You have a lot of Kurt Cobain fans out there, But to me, when I think of grunge, a lot of times I think of Jimmy Page. I just really hear a lot of grunge kind of sound in the, some Led Zeppelin songs. And I really, really like that growing up. That's why I listen to so much Led Zeppelin songs like "Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You," stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just sometimes you don't want to listen to the clear-cut radio songs. You want to listen to something with more grunge, more blues, more feeling. And Led Zeppelin always had that.
Oh, yeah.
And you could, of course, put a lot of that towards their singer Robert Plant, but of course Jimmy Page is the man.
Yep.
Let's move on to Cory's number 3 guitarist. Who do you got?
All right, coming in at number 3 is a guy that maybe some of our viewers might not actually have heard of. A guy named George Benson. He's a long-time successful jazz blues player.
Yep.
He played with a lot of the best. He's a master. I mean, his licks are mind-blowing. His tone is always so crisp and clean and sound. To me, it cuts through on the record so well, and he's just awesome.
He's covered multiple genres too. He started out with the R&B kind of jazz kind of with brother Jack McDuff.
Yes.
Playing with a lot of people as a side guy. When he went out solo, then he kind of went to R&B, soul.
Yep.
Then he kind of crossed over and had some radio hits in the 70s. So
he did.
He's got an amazing tone. I love that solid the hollow body Gibson he plays.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's just kind of like the newer generation of a Wes Montgomery type jazz player.
Yep. Master of his craft.
Yep. So number 3 for Justin. Who do you got?
This one's pretty obvious to most as well. But sometimes, in those guitar polls, he gets, underrated. I'd say this is David Gilmour from Pink Floyd.
Oh yeah.
Probably the best selection of notes in his solos and his lead work, and he evolved into an amazing songwriter. Even when Pink Floyd disbanded from Roger Waters, and in the late '80s they came back with Momentary Lapse of Reason.
Yes.
And The Division Bell. Those 2 albums were great, and he came into his own as a songwriter, and this is later in his career, but on top of the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
As a guitar player, he plays a beautiful Strat, the black one with the maple neck. He also uses a Tele from time to time. He didn't go conventional with the Marshall. He went with high watt amps.
Yes.
So and combined with all the effects he uses, the multiple layers of delay. And he kind of had the best voice in Pink Floyd as well.
I agree.
Definitely.
When you hear
good
Roger
call.
Waters sing, it's kind of shrieky sometimes.
It
And
is.
it's kind of,
It is.
It's kind of scary. And David Gilmour brought that sense of melody, even though a lot of the lyrics were Waters' lyrics.
Absolutely. And the thing with me about Gilmour that you kind of touched on is he makes the most efficiency of every note. There's no wasted notes. Everything means something.
Yep.
Definitely well said, Cory. All right, we're moving up to pretty close to the top of the list here. We are at number 2. Cory, let's go ahead and start off with you. Who do you have at your number 2 spot for the best guitarist?
Number 2 is a guy who pretty much changed the game whenever he came onto the scene and inspired, I think, almost everybody that I know who likes rock or plays music, and that's Jimi Hendrix. It goes without saying. He was so far ahead of his time. His music still stands up today, as sounding fresh and new and exciting, like stuff you don't hear all the time. Tonally, sometimes it was a little bit too heavy for me, but I really liked later on in his career, whenever he played with the Band of Gypsies lineup.
Yeah.
That was an awesome live tone with the. What effects did he have on that? The Octavia?
Yeah, the Octavia.
Yeah.
Now, he is also my number 2 guitarist as well.
Great minds
Jimi
think
Hendrix, yes.
Excellent.
One thing we can say quite a bit in this discussion is the word timeless. I mean, when we're
Yes.
talking about the best guitarist of all time, I think that goes almost without being said. But Jimi Hendrix, it is so true. I mean, come on. He's just... all these songs still hold up today. They're all just so genius, and it's just really... it's him being revolutionary for that time. So
he's my
number 2.
He took the blues to a whole nother level. He electrified them, and he took them to the psychedelic world and beyond. There was really no going back after people heard Hendrix albums. If you listen to interviews with Pete Townsend or Clapton, or even Paul McCartney, they saw Hendrix in a London club right when he flew over, and they were in awe, and they knew that he was going to be the next big thing, and he was.
Yep.
It's just it's tragic that he didn't get to see his career pan out like we hoped it would have.
Yeah.
All right, Justino, who do you got at number 2 on your list of top 5 guitarists?
All right, number 2 on my list is this guy's definitely under the radar. He's been around for over 20 years now. His name is Buckethead.
Oh yeah,
a.k.a. Death Cube K, a.k.a. Brian Carroll. He goes by a couple different monikers.
Got him at number 2.
He's just like a virtuoso guitar genius. And the not seeing his face, he's wearing a mask all the time. You just never know his identity. He's released over 30 albums in his career. He's worked with multiple artists. He's worked with Bootsy Collins quite a bit.
He has.
Bootsy.
He's covered so many genres of guitar playing, and he's a great composer. He writes melodic acoustic music to crazy like alien sound effect noises to chicken coop rock operas.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing about Buckethead is the fact that he puts out so much music. He released a dump truck load of albums last year, and everything's always mind-blowing. I mean, his technique is amazing. He's a little bit out there, but that's okay.
Yep. That's why I picked him at 2. He's like I said, he's kind of underground.
Yeah, definitely.
Unless you're a guitar fan.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to number 1. I'll go ahead and start it off. My number 1 guitarist. This is my personal list here. I think you guys might not agree, but my number 1 is Eric Clapton. He's my number 1 guitarist. Now, I know there's definitely going to be a lot of other people out there that agree with me. He's extremely popular, but you definitely have to be a huge fan of blues to appreciate Eric Clapton. And I just love blues to death. I still listen to it pretty hardcore this day. And, Eric Clapton to me was like, I almost want to say God. Growing up, just because my dad loved him, my uncle loved him, my whole family loved Eric Clapton, so I was constantly listening to him, and just the word Clapton just symbolizes relaxation to me. I could put on some Clapton, I just feel right at home no matter where I'm at, and he's my number 1 guitarist. Cory, you have anything to throw in on Eric Clapton there?
Yeah, as far as Clapton goes, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with his longevity. He's went from Cream to Derek and the Dominoes to
John Mayall's Blues Breakers.
The Blues Breakers, yep. Blind Faith.
Blind Faith, awesome album.
And then, of course, he sort of had that career resurgence in, the late 70s?
Yeah, mid to late 70s.
Yeah. And then again, and with the MTV Unplugged performance.
Oh, man, I love that CD.
Really brought him back up. So, yeah, man, I agree with all the points you made on Eric Clapton.
All right, now we're going to have a second parter where Justin and Cory are going to reveal their number 1 guitarist of all time. So I'm really excited. I do not know this myself, and these guys know a lot about music, so it's going to be awesome to hear who their number 1 guy is. So stay tuned for part 2, and we'll find out.